Hi everyone, I'm here to show you the final outcome of my Remember When January Design Team Kit, which featured the Graphic45 French Country Collection. A couple of weeks ago I posted a video showing you what I received, and I got the Graphic45 French Country Collection with a farmhouse mini album. And I decided to make a cookbook. So before I show you what I ended up with, I'm going to show you all the little main mediums and tools that I used to create this mini album. So first, a couple of my favorite tools that I love to use is my Tim Holtz scissors. This crafting knife has become one of my favorites. It's very ergonomically fit for my hand, so I use this crafting knife. And then to distress edge the edges of the paper, I use this Prima tool as well. It's one of my favorite tools. Okay, so the dies that I used I used both sizes of the Tim Holtz rosettes. So this one is the paper rosette, and it's the larger of the two, and that's the number in case you don't have it. And then I used the medium to small rosettes die, and that's the number there. I also used the on the edge file tabs. These are pretty cool. I used the new torn notebook. I used this part of it actually only. I used some embossing folders, and this one's the notebook and the honeycomb. I also used his glassine paper, craft glassine. I used the Crafter's Workshop honeycomb stencil, and oh, this is the mini chicken wire. I thought it was a honeycomb. Sorry, it's a chicken wire. So that's the number. I also used this stamp from this stamp set. I used some corrugated paper, and you can buy it, but I actually used from a frame that I got. I just kept this and then tore off the top to get this. So keep those. Those are very useful. The inks, distress inks that I used are crushed olive, mustard seed, salty ocean, forest moss, and of course walnut stain, which is my all-time go-to brown. I used some walnut stain distress powder. Used walnut stain. I used some perfect pearls. I used perfect copper, perfect or forever green, and perfect bronze. Let's see. I used some Lindy's. This is the Moon Shadow. I love the Moon Shadow because of the browns. I used Ethereal Emerald. I also used some Folk Art metallic paint. This is like a brown. And then I used some of the new Tim Holtz Distress paints, which was fun. So I used Mowed Lawn, Salty Ocean, Wild Honey, and Walnut Stain. And then for mediums, I used multimedia matte. This is the Claudine Helmuth, but I think I might have used this, or I used Golden's. I also used the clear rock candy distress crackle paint. And then finally I use a tiny bit of molding paste. Okay, now on to the actual book. This is my mini album. Just the camera a little. So, as you can see, this is the cover. And so then what I did is I fussy cutted a lot out. And with Graphic45, fussy cutting is to get embellishments from the paper is basically all I do, is because Graphic45 doesn't really have too many embellishments. So what I did is I fussy cutted out this, some of the sunflowers, and then the rooster. I used a lot of those journaling cutouts to write down recipes and stuff. So I made a cookbook, and this is my favorite recipes. Up a little closer on the actual flowers, I used the crackle paint. And if I bring it to the side, you can see it. I used some crackle paint and I used walnut stain over it once it dried. For the cover itself, I painted it with the folk art paint and used the chicken wire stencil with molding paste to get the textured background. And then I use the matte medium to adhere this down and over the paper. So there's it from the side. You can see the crackle paint. And then on the side, I use matte medium to adhere the roosters on the side. So on the back, there's a chicken wire again. But this time I used the paint over the chicken wire first. I dried it. I used a pretty good coat so that it would pull up around the stencil to make the texture. And then I dried it and then painted over it again. And I got that. I did it on the insides too, but kind of opposite. I didn't paint over completely. That's the front, or the back, and then that's the front. Okay, so each page has either a recipe with the ingredients or how to, or a picture of the food. I only did 3 recipes, and then I'm going to fill it later. So here I did a lot of painting and tearing, paper tearing, and distressing the sides of the paper. These are some Prima flowers. I believe this is Maya Road. Could be May Art trim, but this is a burlap trim. This is where I used the glassine paper. I distressed the edges, and I actually printed on the glassine. And then I stuck a picture inside there of the food. Okay, next page. This is the second page. And as you see, I used some Prima flowers. Again, I believe this is Maya Road trim. Oops, sorry, my finger was in the way. I used some more crackle paint. This one turned out pretty good over the fussy cutted piece. I did it along the side of the journaling card. This is the other side where it has the picture of the food. Here's another fussy cutted with crackle paint, some more trim. Over here on this page, I used the embossing, the actual honeycomb embossing folder. I just tore it and I distress inked over it and then made a pocket. So then this comes out. some more flowers and trim. Here, up in the corner here, I used the chicken wire frame, but I painted on the stencil. I painted on the stencil and then put it down and then lifted back up. That's how I got that. I just layered and painted over. Some more pictures and flower and trims. This one, I created a frame using chipboard, and if I put it to the side here, you could see the chipboard there. So I layered up some chipboard and then put the paper on top of it. And then I just used some of the, I framed in, I popped up this picture from the frame, just layered in the actual Prima flowers are, sorry, it's awkward. The Prima flowers were white, and I used some Distress inks and the Lindy spray. And I'm not sure if you can see in the background, I'll have a better example on the next page, but I created this paper using craft paper on the back. So I used craft paper with some ink refresher, some Ranger ink refresher, the Perfect Pearls that you saw in the beginning of the video, and some Distress inks. And I used that as the background. Now, on this page, you could see it a little better. So it kind of looks like a leathery look. I posted a how-to video with something that I learned from Tim Holtz last CHA. So, okay, so this page completely looks like this. There's some glassine paper just toward the edges. I use the burlap trim as the frame of the pocket. And then once again I used some Prima flowers. And this was the Lindy's ethereal green. Emerald, sorry. So this page, I just did some layering. That's basically all I did there with the Prima flower. I took what was left over from the honeycomb embossed glassine paper, and I put it on the corners. I just layered it. Then this one, some mustard seed on some Prima flowers. I layered up. I created a pocket, and I used some chipboard. As you can see there, I used some chipboard to create the pocket. I'm not going to pull this completely out because I always get it stuck, but I used, maybe I can, there you go. I used the Tim Holtz embossing folder, notebook embossing folder, and the On the Edge to get the tab. Just use some walnut stain over it. This page is lots of layering with some embossing powder, walnut stain embossing powder, and that's the Tim Holtz stamp that I showed earlier. So that's what that page looks like. The next page, so this page is paper in the background with some paint. There's the corrugated paper with the same brown, folk art brown, and use mustard seed on it. And then there's a Prima flower framed in. Use some paint and mustard seed on the flower. I created a pocket here and put a glassine paper in there and used the On the Edge tab die. This page, once again, lots of layering, lots of fussy cutting of paper. We're almost there. This book took me forever. I couldn't believe how many pages was in this mini album. Okay, so this page, let's see, can we see it all? There we go. Layering, crumpling of paper. I This is where I use the rosette paper dies. I put some Prima flowers on it and fussy cutted out some roosters. And then this page here, pretty simple. Some more rosette flowers. This is the torn notebook. So this is the Tim Holtz, or this is the embossed folder, and this part's the torn. So it looks kind of raggedy on the side, but that's how paper is when you tear it out, and it gets handled a lot. It gets torn and looks grungy like that. Okay, so then the final page is this one, and it says, "The only time to eat diet food is while you're waiting for the steak to cook," by Julia Child. And so here is where I actually used some of the Tim Holtz paints, and it was fun. So they go on, like these colors kind of went on bright, but then as I sprayed some water on them and let them distress out, they got a little darker. And then I used, once I painted it, I used some of the distress inks to kind of tone it down a little bit. And then on here, I just used, it was white paper that printing paper that I printed on, and I used distress inks, and then I threw some water on it and got some spots that, as if this cookbook had been used a lot, so that's, I think it went well with the distress look that I like. And then I just used some trim up at the top, and then at the bottom I created a heart using the trim. So that is my design team project for Remember When for January. I hope you guys like it. Check out my blog for pictures and a little bit more discussion on how I created certain areas. Also coming up are some close-up pictures. Thank you. Thanks for watching.